Sunday School teacher, thank you for taking the time to join us for a time of preparation and study. We're working on the lesson for Sunday, May the 10th. That's Mama's Day. Happy Mother's Day. And aren't you thankful for good mothers? I'm thankful for mine that did a wonderful job raising me in a wonderful Christian home, teaching me and being an example to me, even continues to do that today. So thank you, Mama. And I hope you have the opportunity to express appreciation to your mother as well. But we're working on the lesson for Sunday, May the 10th. We're going to be in Romans chapter 12. This is another one of those lessons that we have just a few verses to look at, but you could spend hours on each one of them. So be mindful of your time as you prepare your lesson. Don't try to cover everything, because there's no way you're going to be able to get through all of it. So be mindful of your time as you prepare. So saying that, let me jump in to what I've prepared. I've got the introductory comments and background ideas here for this lesson entitled Sacrifices. The point of the lesson is that believers are to demonstrate Christ-like character, living sacrifices in all they do. Paul is talking about spiritual transformation here in these verses. Paul describes the nature of Christian living and what we do as believers as being living sacrifices. A term that, we'll jump into that as we go along. But Paul gives a number of examples of a transformed Christian life in a series of brief imperative statements. And we're going to look at all of those. And again, closing out this introduction, Paul's teaching here also reflects Jesus' teaching in the Sermon on the Mount. So when you hear Paul here, you're also going to hear a lot of what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount. So let's jump into these. Chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, there we see that we are to offer ourselves. He says, brothers and sisters, in view of the mercies of God, I urge you to present your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may do what is the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. As Christians, we are to offer ourselves to God as living sacrifices. Now, this idea of sacrifices, in Rome, the Jews were aware of the customs in the Jewish synagogue of the offering of sacrifices. The Gentile people in Rome were used to the pagan temples where they offered up sacrifices. So this idea of sacrifices is known to them. And basically what they knew about a sacrifice was it was either dead or very soon to be dead as it was offered up. But Paul says here, first of all, living, alive, breathing, ongoing sacrifice. We are to offer up ourselves. He says in verse 1 that our lives are to be an ongoing act of worship, letting Him renew our minds so that we can discern and obey God's will. So in verse 1 he says a couple of things here. Number one, I see that in the outline, follow along. Brothers and sisters, he's talking about those in the church. He's not talking about those outside, he's talking about those in the church. He says, therefore, and that is there because he is, what he's about to say is going to be built on previous statements. He also says, in the view